Item filters in Path of Exile are a powerful tool to customize how your item drops are displayed on screen. They're a little bit complicated to set up from scratch, but there's some helpful resources provided by the community with which anyone can set up a custom item filter within a few minutes. Hi guys, welcome to another video. My name is CatmasterOP, and today we want to talk a little bit about item filters. In the previous video we went through the user interface options, telling new players step by step which options to activate and deactivate, and in the bottom of the user interface option you can select an item filter. Now, before we get into the item filters, I've been working on a lot of content for new and experienced players alike, so if you like this style of video and you want to have more content, I would invite you to subscribe to the channel and tick the bell for notifications whenever I release new content on this channel. Now, let's get into item filters. Now, per default, I think there is one default item filter installed, but you really want to make yourself a custom item filter for Path of Exile, which is not as hard as it sounds. There is a very nice German content creator called NeverSink who made the famous NeverSink filter. NeverSink was one of the first people to write a very sophisticated item filter with the scripting language. It's not a scripting language, it's more like a style sheet language. Anyway, NeverSink was one of the first people to really put a lot of work into it and optimize the code and keep it updated for every leak. And eventually NeverSink designed a website called FilterBlade.xyz, which we'll go to right now and show you. I walk you through how to make a custom filter for your needs specifically. So on the FilterBlade start page, you'll first see that you can select the strictness. Higher strictness highlights less items. I would always recommend, even in solo self font, to at least go for semi-strict, if not harder. I'm never going to recommend soft or regular, but there may be uses for that. So my beginner filter for solo self font would be strict, but also if you're playing Trade League, you're basically playing solo self font in the beginning because you need to get your character to a certain point before you start making currency and before you're able to buy items. So we go with the semi-strict. Style is just the color and sound variation. I personally recommend purple, slick, azurite or crimson, as those are the nicest ones for me personally, but all of these themes are really cool. I actually tend to go with a different one every league, so then it feels like a little bit of a visual upgrade, right? Because everything changes a little bit. But let's go with crimson for this. And then we go with presets. Presets are a very handy way to customize your filter. So first of all, you can change the sounds. There's a lot of community members that created their own sound sets, but you can also press custom sounds and upload any sounds and put them onto the different categories for your filter. I personally go with a Diablo 2 sound set because of nostalgia reasons, but you can use anything. I also heard that MapleStory has some awesome sounds that you can use for filters. Currency, I generally go with give all currency max font size because I really want it to stand out, especially early on, and especially for a newer player, you want to have the understanding that, you know, things that are shown big are big. Leveling, this will highlight specific bases for your style of leveling. So if you're playing a summoner, you go with summoners. If you're planning to, you know, dual wield axes and cyclone around, you go with axes and maces. If you want to make a two-handed character, you can go with two-handed. For casters and trappers, which is what you probably want to start with because this is a very strong archetype. If you're not playing summoners, you can highlight a combination of wands, scepters and daggers that you can craft for your individual casting needs. And of course it also highlights rare items that you don't need to craft anymore. But this is really helpful because it kind of streamlines the selection process of what you pick up and what you leave on the ground. Chaos Recipe is not important to know about right now. There is a specific combination of items that you can sell to a town vendor so you get currency in return, but I would just leave that at default. You'll learn about that later. Chancing, I will also leave on default. Maps, I go with never hide or outlevel low maps because I like to pick up all my low level maps because I can trade them 3 for 1 to help with my Atlas progression, or I can run them later on second and third characters. So I never hide or outlevel low maps. But if you're later in game, you might want to hide maps just because there's too many. Divination cards, I leave with default. Recipes, I leave with default, as well as all of these checkboxes that I'll just keep at default because they're all for hiding extra things. For a beginning player, I would not recommend to hide a whole lot of things, just a little bit of streamlining the selection process, but you also want to be able to see a lot of things. You want to put your hands on a lot of stuff in the game so you learn to know to interact with the things. And if you hide too many things, it can feel like you're killing something and there's like no items dropping. What am I even doing, right? So make sure that you don't hide things for a newer player too much. And that's almost done. That's 90% of the filter setup. Now what I would recommend is you go into customize and you add the divination cards that you want to collect for your build, specifically to the highest tier. I personally put Imperial Legacy here for the 6-link bow because I like to collect those, and I put the lion here for the Lionize item. But generally your build guide will probably tell you what items you need to look out for and what divination cards are helpful for your build. So if you have any information on that, you may want to add it here. You can also shift the divination cards around between the different tiers, right? You can change Demigod's Wager to higher, Wolven King's Bite higher, Blessing of God lower. It's important to know that you can drag and drop them around here. And in Simulate, you will be able to generate a set of loot that will show you how stuff looks when it drops on the ground. And it also does show you the things that are hidden with a strike through formatting so that you know that these are not shown when you're in the game. These are just there to show you that there would be things that are otherwise not shown. So that's also why, don't hide too many things for a newer player because you'll feel like there's no loot dropping, right? You can also play the loot sounds here if you want to. In style, you can modify the sounds. This is where I put my D2 sounds on. Every category comes with one sound. In total, there's like 8 categories in this filter, so it's very easy. You can just go to Custom, Manage. You can upload your sound files here, and then you can put them onto your categories. We skip Advanced, which is for experienced FilterBlade users, developers, and filter authors only. And we go Save and Load, where you can save your filter, give it a name. This allows you to share it with other people, and it allows you to reload the same filter. And finally, you go to Download, where you follow the instructions how to install your filter. You'll download it by clicking this button, and then you have to make sure that this will land in your Documents folder /mygames/Path of Exile. Make sure to give it the name that you want to recognize when you select it in the game. In the game itself, you can then press the drop-down menu and find your filter here, so you can select it for your start. And that sums it up. This is about all the settings that I would personally want to make for a new player to set them up for the best possible Path of Exile learning to know experience. Later on, you may want to install some third-party software like the PoE trade macro as well as the LUTbot script. Both are auto hotkey scripts that make your life a lot easier in Path of Exile, but that's not something I would want to burden a new player with. In general, I would recommend a new player to not go too hard on following guides, or instructions early on. Just go into the game, enjoy the game, learn to know the game, and then later on make guides and tutorials your tools to make your experience better. Don't go and follow guides and become the tool of the guide, because that can quickly lead you to a situation where the game's not fun at all for you. Make sure that you first experience the game, you first experience the fun, and then you use guides as a tool to enhance your fun, to enhance your progress. Don't stress out about following a certain guide or meeting certain goals in your first 2 weeks of Path of Exile. Just enjoy the game, learn to know all the content, and keep growing. Thank you guys so much for watching. I wish you an awesome day and rest of your week, and I'll see you when I see you in the next video.